So ANC Deputy Secretary General Jesse Duarte is speaking to our reporter Samekele Maseko on the leaked recordings and more latest developments. Let's cross over to Samekele. Over to you.
In those leaked recordings of the ANC DSG speaking about the judiciary and how her biggest disappointment is the Chief Justice of the land, Chief Justice Mogoeng, who's had tongues wagging over these past few days over that revelation on Minister Pravin Gordhan, on his friend Judge Dayapile, this issue on confusion caused by her very same office, the SGO office, on the issue of step-aside guidelines. Many people saying the scope had been extended by the SGO and in particular the Secretary General alias Magashule, and also the issue of the Minister of Transport in the country and ANC head of elections, Fikile Mbalula, threatening that ANC member in Limpopo, Malu, over-branded taxis which were branded with Ace Magashule's face, and the treasurer of Limpopo, Denim says, I want to bring in the Deputy Secretary General now, Jesse Duarte, as she exclusively speaks to the SABC. DSG, that leaked audio of yourself on the judiciary, you had just apologized to Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo a few days ago.
But I was in a private meeting of the national officials of the ANC where I have an absolute right to voice my opinion. What is wrong is that a snooper who cuts in and splices your input in such a manner that it gives a particular orientation didn't allow himself or herself to put the whole conversation out. They chose selectively a few words, which I find, look, to me, snooping is a very disgusting science, but it's used by people, and it's used with a particular emphasis. I had a private conversation with 6 other people. We had a very decent conversation. We understood each other. We corrected each other where necessary. The fact of the matter is, am I now being told that I have no right in the privacy of a conversation within the National Executive Committee or within the officials to say anything anymore? Am I now to be silenced? Because I'm afraid that whatever I say and have a view and an opinion on will now become broadcast for the purposes of showing me up as somebody who is perhaps has a difficult level of integrity. I have views. I express them in my organization, which is the place I should be expressing them, and therefore I'm not going to say anything more about them here. I think the snooper is the one who must answer the question as to why they chose to take a clip. In fact, it's not even the whole conversation. It's spliced at the beginning, and it's spliced in the middle and joined together sentences that came at the end of the conversation in an interesting way that makes it sound very awkward. Nevertheless, it is out there, and all I can say to you at this moment, the position of my organization is that we support the Zondo Commission. I respect that position. Irrespective of my own views, we respect the Commission. We go to the Commission. I was there yesterday. I went with Gwede Mantashe. We prepared the submission of Gwede Mantashe together with Krish Naidu. I have sent to the Zondo Commission 3 separate submissions that they asked me to do. So I'm not in any way belligerent. I have a view. And so I don't see why my view expressed in a private conversation should become so brazenly utilized. But I have an understanding perhaps of why. I think it's used by people who want to show me as being part of a particular camp because they failed to draw me into a camp. And I've always expressed my views very openly. I don't support individuals. I support the African National Congress. And I'm a bit stoic about that, which makes me a difficult person to work with, because somebody said in the Free State about 2 years ago in a matter that I was dealing with, said, this woman is unreliable, and I agreed. I am. You cannot rely on me to be part of a faction that you might lead.
Which faction did they want you to be a part of DSG?
I think in this case, if I'm looking at it properly and I look at the events following up to that particular leak, the previous leaks from the NEC showed people who were speaking in favor of the Secretary General only. The voices of other people were not leaked, strangely enough. And I think that it is the people who are in support of the Secretary General who are doing this, frankly and honestly speaking, whoever they might be. I don't think it's the SG himself, but I think it's people who support him, who are sitting in the dark room somewhere, cooking up all manner of pardon me for saying this, crazy antics. The ANC makes decisions. At my level, when a decision is made, my responsibility is to execute that decision.
Why isn't that individual, the Secretary General, who's now in Kwatakwattunuse in Nkandla, coming out and speaking strongly if you are suggesting that it's his supporters who are doing this and trying to tarnish people's names and drawing them into a faction?
I think it's difficult for the Secretary General. You know, this morning I called him about the taxi industry with the ANC emblem on it. It's the Secretary General's responsibility to defend the ANC, to defend its decisions, to defend its emblems, to defend its flag. And the SG said that he did not give anyone permission to use our emblem on taxis. So the next thing I did was to ask our lawyer to write to the taxi industry and ask them to remove the ANC emblem. People can put whatever they like on a taxi. We are not arguing with it. They can put any face they want to on a taxi, but they can't use the emblem of the ANC without our permission. And they don't have our permission. And so, you know, I think that, honestly speaking, this kind of, I could call it rearguard campaigning, does not help anyone in the situation that we're in now, where we are expected to wait until the end of April for people who've been criminally charged, as the decision is of the NEC, to be, first of all, provinces to tell and advise the people of the NEC decision, to provide the SGO with a list of all the people that they've advised. At the end of April, all those people will be asked to give their answer. People who've been criminally charged to give their answer on whether they're going to step aside. If not, the ANC constitution and decision has to kick in, which is then a suspension. Now, I think what people are arguing against is, and they're using all manner of arguments, they're using the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, and of course, everybody is innocent until proven guilty, but the ANC has a right, as an organization, to apply its own rules in terms of the conditions we find ourselves in. So I believe what is probably happening now, and we saw the same this morning with a number of placards showing the faces of other people. And the message there is everyone must step aside. The concern we must have is that the NEC has made a decision. The SG has agreed to go and consult several senior leaders of the ANC, which he made that concession on his own. No one forced the SG. He made that, and I thought that was a correct concession to make, to say, you know, I'd like to go and talk to senior leaders. Someone, somewhere, is sitting down, paying quite a bit of money for very fancy placards, for buses. It's not cheap buses. I have a video of the buses that came from Free State this morning, and very smart, glossy posters. And the ANC struggles with finances, and yet there are people who can do this to divert the decision of the ANC. One would hope that whatever happens at the end of the month, there will be decency. Either way, you know. And decency is really what we're expecting here, a lot of decency. To enable the ANC to do the work that we have to do. We have difficulties. At the moment, we're going through BBGMs. We all know that in this period there's normally a bit of instability in the ANC, and that's what the task is, frankly, that I am focused on.
DSG, I want to bring you closely on the issue of the SG.
Sure.
Over the years, he's been characterized as an individual who thrives in chaos and confusion. He sent out a letter where you could clearly visibly see that the scope of the step-aside resolution of the ANC had been extended to even those who are implicated in wrongdoing who have not yet been charged. Yet the NEC resolution says only those who have been charged.
Absolutely.
Did you see that letter of the SG before it was sent out, or he did it on his own?
I have not seen that, did not see that letter before it was sent out. I was, however, made aware of it because it was leaked to the media. Once it was leaked to the media, the only thing we can do in respect of respecting the decisions of the ANC was to correct that through a statement that we did yesterday to reinforce the decisions that were taken at the NWC and the NEC, and to remind people what those decisions were once again. And I cannot personally step away from any decision made by the NEC or the NWC. My responsibility is to execute it. So whoever drafted that letter, and it went out, it didn't just go out. It first got leaked to the media, and then it was sent to the provinces, because we were made aware of the leak the night before. The provinces received it the next morning. So it was leaked.
Why did the SG not raise alarm bells on this issue? Because his signature is clearly there. He endorsed that particular letter, which was on a factional basis, and the scope broadened.
Samekele, I don't like to do this, but I think you would have to ask the SG that question. I'm not in a position to answer it. All I can do is reassert the decisions of the NEC and the NWC.
Is he fighting for his life because he's seemingly being cornered politically?
I think anybody who is asked to step aside begins to fight for their political lives. And I think that it should be expected. But I think what I can make a comment on is to say that when you are challenged within the organization, often your best defense is to follow the prescripts of the organization. Normally when you do that, you come out better. And there are many examples of that.
That's a
one
threat.
would hope that the SG would accept that particular perspective of himself as a very senior member of this organization. He's not junior. The SG is very senior, and he's very knowledgeable in terms of what the ANC rules are. He's been in the NEC of the ANC from 1992, the first conference in Durban. He has been around. He's been party to the decisions of the National Executive Committee. My personal hope would be that we go through the next couple of weeks with less of the high demand for some action that might not happen or might happen, and call on the branches to refocus a little bit and to focus on the building of our organization, irrespective of who we support as individuals. The ANC is a vehicle for transformation of our country. And if we don't accept that, and if we believe that only we should be in the lead in that transformation, we're very wrong. I was in Mpumalanga, under very troubled, it's public knowledge, so I can't speak about it, trying to resolve what we cannot accept, violence within the ANC. 5 people have been killed at ANC meetings in Mpumalanga. On the 10th, 14 people were injured going innocently to an ANC BBGM. One of them is critically ill in a hospital. And to me, that is really for myself. That must be my focus. My second, right now, my long-term focus is the insurance and assurance that the ANC meets its transformational goals. We might have differences of opinion on the economy, on everything else, but you know what? We cannot be the ones who lead to the demise of the ANC. That let me speak for myself, I have to say, I'll have to stand against, no matter who it is. You know, once you start giving me the impression that you're ready to break the ANC, then I'm on the opposite side of you.
Who is ready to break the ANC?
I think there is a number of actors at the moment in our country who are trying to do that. And there's a concerted effort, frankly speaking, to try and denude the ANC of its efficacy, to denude the ANC of its values and its culture and its customs, to ensure that individuals emerge above the organization, irrespective of who those individuals might be. All I'm doing is I'm saying you can never be bigger than the ANC, from where I come from. You know, you can never be bigger than the ANC. Sometimes it's a hard pill that you must swallow. You must defend yourself. I accept that entirely. And you must also make sure that there's fairness and there's justice in any process that the ANC embarks on. I stand firmly by that. But please do not work in such a way that you begin to create chaos, that the ANC finds hard to explain to the people. And please make sure that when you mobilize people in support of whatever it is that you might have been wronged with or by, that you're not taking the ANC down a particular path. Do it soberly and do it with content and do it with context, so that I, as an ordinary member, can understand. You know, there's a grievance. The ANC is dealing with that grievance in a particular way, or not. And there are mechanisms in the ANC for people to raise their grievances. I don't particularly think that this morning's placard demonstration is basking any person who might be responsible for it in glory. In fact, it's having the opposite impact from what I'm picking up.
DSG, I want to ask you this pointed question.
Sure.
Is the SG abiding by the prescripts of the organization when it comes to this turbulent time that he's facing on stepping aside? It's
difficult for me to be very black or white about that. What I observe is that the SG is doing what he asked the NEC to allow him to do, and to go and consult with various leaders. I'm aware that he's consulting Comrade Zuma today. I'm aware that he has an appointment next week, hopefully with Comrade Thabo Mbeki. I'm aware that he has consulted Comrade Matthew Posa. I'm not sure of whether he has been able yet to see Comrade Kgalema Motlanthe. Those are the people he'd agreed to go by. So I can't accuse him of not abiding, because he hasn't personally stood with a placard in front of anybody. He hasn't personally, there's no knowledge that I have that he personally put emblems on buses. But there's people out there doing it in his name, and that is problematic. People who use the SG's name for whatever other reason that they might have, to use his name in a negative manner, I think is wrong. And we also must defend our SG from those people, whoever they are. Of course they're not going to come forward, Samekele. They're not going to put up their hand and say, I put the emblem on the bus, or I mobilized people to go to Luthuli House and have a placard demonstration in the manner that it went. Or the person who leaked the SG's letter to the media the night before it went to province is not going to say that they did so. Or the people who crafted that letter is not going to come clean. This I know. All I can say is that from where I am standing and sitting now apparently, I have no choice. I have to implement decisions of the NEC as a cadre of the movement, and I have to abide by what the NWC has outlined as the tasks that must flow out of those decisions. And I'm not prepared to step anywhere outside of that reality.
Is there friction between yourself and the SG, knowing that you never had a glimpse of that letter that was sent to all provincial secretaries?
No, the SG and I know each other for a very long time. We have a very straightforward relationship. We speak very openly to each other. There's no friction. Let me say that we have a working relationship that is very open and very clear. So I'm not in friction with my SG at the moment. I called him to ask him about the emblems on the buses. He said he didn't know anything about it. I accept his bona fides, you know. I did not discuss the letter with the SG. I simply talked to somebody in his office, his chief of staff, and I pointed out that there was a problem with the letter. And I indicated that we will have to correct that in a statement of the NWC. And that's where I left it. So, you know, we don't have this kind of haranguing each other, fighting. I think that's drama that is out there. There's no drama where I am. I'm disappointed if the SG does not do something to say not in my name. I would really urge him to say not in my name. I think that's helpful, and that will help the organization.
Why didn't you engage him about the letter, and why didn't you ask him to say not in my name?
About the letter, I've dealt with it. I think it's dealt with. There's no need to go back. About the not in my name, we constantly refer to that discussion in NEC, in NWC. Personally, between us, we've had that conversation to say, you know, people must be able to decry ill discipline when it is in their name. I mean, I must give the SG the due. Remember when T-shirts were burnt in the Free State, he did say not in my name. And we must give him that respect. So all I'm saying to you, I understand that you're trying to see if there's a difficulty between us. The only difficulty I have at the moment is with people who are trying to break the back of the ANC based on a decision of the NEC, the NWC, and the resolutions of the ANC. Once decisions have been made in the NEC, you've expressed your view and your opinion, live with that decision.
Are you looking forward to be the acting Secretary General of the African National Congress?
I will not be the acting Secretary General of the ANC. Irrespective of what happens, I deputize a Secretary General, you know. And I think there must be clarity on that. I was elected as a Deputy Secretary General, and the Constitution of the ANC says that in the absence of the Secretary General, I would fulfill the duties. But I would not become an acting or anything. I would be the Deputy Secretary General of the ANC, and I will stay that way until my term ends.
Are you a stooge of former President Jacob Zuma? Many people have said you are a lackey.
Oh, that's
of
a
the
big
former
insult.
president.
You know, to call anybody a stooge and a lackey, with due respect, is an insult to me. I cannot be a stooge of anybody. I have a brain. I have a mind of my own. I express myself very openly using my own mind, my own mouth and my own brain. I've never been told by anybody what to say, when to say it, how to say it. If I disagree with you, I will disagree with you, as you know very well. Calling me a stooge and a lackey is a term that is normally used to denigrate people, and particularly women, strong women. It is unbelievable that in this patriarchal, misogynistic world, those are words that would be used to undermine my strength. I won't allow that. I'm nobody's stooge. I'm not a fool. I'm not easily led by the nose either. I read. I study a lot. I look at issues from the point of view of what is good for my organization, what is bad for my organization. I speak my mind. I speak my mind fearlessly, without favor of anybody, and I have done so to Comrade Zuma, to Comrade Ramaphosa, to anybody. I have no problem speaking my own mind, which, let me say quite frankly, is never, I try not to be an uninformed mind. And I don't just speak. I make sure that my facts are correct before I open my mind. And when I venture into an opinion, it's genuine. I genuinely would express disappointment, and I would put the facts about that disappointment in place. I wouldn't just make it up. So, Samekele, sorry for those who call me a lackey and a stooge and all I can say is I only feel sorry for them because they haven't bothered to get to know the person. They've, yeah, you know, analysts have this habit, I think, of making up things as they go along. Maybe they are stooges and lackeys of somebody. I certainly am not. I can never be that. I have very strong views about very many things. And I have no problem. NEC members will tell you, I have no problem in expressing my views. I didn't become the DSG of the ANC because I'm a stooge or a lackey. I have earned my position in the ANC over years. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to step down from that. And I'm not a narcissist. I do not believe that I can on my own change the world. I'm part of a collective. You know, I'm not Machiavellian either. You know, I'm not a sucker for punishment. I stand up for myself. And maybe people don't like that. Sorry.
As you say, DSG, you've got in the political space.
Sure.
You've had your views. You've expressed that your greatest disappointment is the Chief Justice, Mohon. What do you make of him and the revelation about the Minister of Public Enterprises, Pravin Gordhan, asking about his friend Judge Pillay?
What I'm aware of is that there's a letter that was written yesterday by the Minister explaining what had happened and the discourse between him and the Chief Justice. And it's a bit different from what the Chief Justice has said. And I don't want to venture into that because I think this is something two individuals who had a conversation with each other need to sort out. And I think that Minister Gordhan did issue that explanation publicly. So it's there, it's out in the open. I don't particularly think that it is wisdom of any kind for people when they've had a conversation to use conversations that might be useful in a particular discussion or a debate. I never do that. And I won't do that. And you know, that's happened to me now with this, it's almost like a big revelation, you know. I've actually, a close comrade of mine and I had this conversation after it happened, and he said, but that's snooping. You know, it is snooping. And my experience with snoopers is that they never get it right. And they never will. But we live in this very odd South Africa right now where social media is the boss of all of us. I think they're not my boss. Yeah.
Do you believe that certain judges in this country are captured as we look at time? 3 o'clock is going to hit any time. Do you
I
believe
have no evidence of that, frankly speaking. I hear the allegation. I have personally no evidence of that. And I think if people have evidence, they must put that evidence on the table. You know, it doesn't help us to try to make allegations that are not based on absolute pure fact. Aren't we all in that position here? I mean, myself, I'm a victim of allegations made by journalists. Sometimes I dispute, sometimes I don't. Because I get tired of it. You get tired of the fact that people wake up on a Monday and decide they must say something about you. I personally do not have, nor have I been furnished in the NEC of the ANC, in the NWC, or the officials of the ANC with cold, hard facts. You know, I want to be able to ask for that. Put it out there, put it on the table. To me, a press statement and an utterance to a journalist is not facts. It's an opinion.
Former President Zuma believes that certain judges are captured by CR17 of President Ramaphosa.
That's Comrade Zuma's view. And I think if Comrade Zuma has evidence of that view, he must make it available.
Did he not make it available in the top 6 meeting?
No. He mentioned it, but he did not make it available as evidence. So and I don't want to discuss the top 6 meeting with you, Samekele, with a great deal of respect. I think that was a closed meeting and it must remain closed.
Is the next top 6 meeting virtual, or are you going back to St. George's Hotel or Boksburg?
I'm not sure where we'll be, but we will be having our meetings physically starting as of Monday.
So essentially you are saying that the leaks have dealt you a huge blow and you've decided to go back to personal meetings.
I think the leaks have damaged our ability to speak openly to each other. We've been put under a fear notion that if you speak here like we used to speak as comrades, you can't speak like a comrade anymore. You must write down what you say, carefully couch your words, perhaps not speak your mind. I can't live like that, frankly speaking. I've got to live in a world where I must be allowed to say what I think.
On the last point, DSG, the last question before you have to go. The quality of the debates in the NEC. Mm-hmm. There were insults held at NEC members in that NEC meeting, people using the S word ending with a T. Can South Africans actively say that this NEC is leading them in the correct direction when the quality of debate is like in a shebeen?
I think it was disappointing that people were using language that does not augur well for the level of people that we are. We have raised the matter. In the NWC we discussed it, and as you know, the Youth League has the NYTT, thank goodness they exist, robust, has made a statement, and I think it's correct that they should. One can only say to the people of South Africa, we can only apologize that happened. The emotions ran high. You know, people are human beings, but even when you're at your most human, there is a decorum that you must have. And it's a pity that happened. And it doesn't make us look good, but hopefully it will never happen again.
Are you part of the RET organization apparently operating at Luthuli House 6th floor?
I believe that it is important for us to radically transform our economy. I will never belong to a faction that uses an ANC genuine policy and turns it into something which it was never meant to be. A militarized, I can't even describe it. I really have to say that very honestly. It is a pity that the two most important issues that we face, which is social transformation and economic transformation, is being abused by people and used factionally. We need to move forward. And I believe with all my heart that the structure of our economy has to change. It must include black South Africans. And black South Africans must be the people who are at the commanding heights of our economy. I believe that with all my heart.
Thank you very much, DSG. That was the Deputy Secretary General of the African National Congress engaging with the SABC on wide-ranging issues, on the issues of step aside against the Secretary General, saying that anyone put in a corner, like he may be in, would fight for their political life, but urging him, as he engages with the former President of the African National Congress, Jacob Zuma, that he disassociate with people who may be dividing the African National Congress for nefarious issues, and also speaking about the judiciary, that there was no cold evidence ever provided by any member of the ANC to the NEC, either to the NWC or to the top 6, that the judiciary has been captured. And we've kissed and made up. There is no more load of the media. Back to you in studio.
Thank you very much for that very wide-ranging interview with the DSG of the ANC. That's a wrap from us now. We're nearly hitting 3 o'clock. Have a pleasant afternoon.